Hi and welcome to the second episode of tellUs with me, Gaeya, as your host. In this episode, I'm talking with Rebecka Le Moine, who is a biologist with a master's degree in ecology and nature conservation. And since 2018, she has been a member of the Swedish Parliament. We're going to address the ongoing issues within the ecosystem today, what impact forestry has on biodiversity and our environment overall. We'll also be discussing how campaigns are spread of greenwashing from both oil industry and forest companies. What impact can forestry have on our health and close surroundings? Welcome to this second episode of tellUs with me, Gaeya. Hi and welcome to the program, Rebecka.
Thanks a lot.
Really lovely to have you here.
Nice to be here.
So, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and how your journey started of wanting to work with these kinds of subjects with the earth in this way?
All right. When I grew up close to the nature in Småland, in the south of Sweden, and nature was always present for me. So when I was a child, the forest was kind of my playground. So I went there and I went fishing and swimming and playing in the woods. And that was where my relationship with nature started.
Yeah.
And from I was when I was a child, I kind of made a promise to myself that I want to contribute somehow. I want to do something for nature, to give something back to nature. And then I become a biologist because I want to learn all of this that I feel inside of my heart, that this is something I really love and that I really want to protect and fight for. But I felt that I must have some more knowledge about it. So that's why I became a biologist, a conservation biologist. And you could say that that's when you in theory learn how to protect nature and preserve species and so on. But it was actually when I was in my third year in the university that I first heard that we were in the mass extinction of species.
Okay.
And that was really shocking to me.
Yeah.
And I thought it's so weird and so wrong that you have to study for 3 years before somebody even mentions that this is a crisis, really crisis. Yeah. And the last time this happened was when the dinosaur died out. So this is nothing. This is nothing normal at all, and we are the driver of it. So I did have a hard time to even believe this and to understand it. And then I remember that I questioned: is it really knowledge that we are lacking?
Yeah.
And I read a paper, a study where biologists said really sharp to the politicians that we need to stop the overfishing in our seas, because otherwise the fish will really, the ecosystem will collapse.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, so this is really good if the scientists are telling them really how it is. But then I saw something really depressing, and that this paper was published in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah, and then again I felt kind of depressed, and I thought, no, it's not the knowledge that is lacking, because we are saying the same thing over and over again, but people are not listening. And I feel that many people in the environmental movement are frustrated about this. Yeah. So then I became more and more of an activist and starting to scream the things that scientists have been publishing for years and years. And I realized that after a while that now we are so many people on the outside of the parliament, outside on the streets, claiming or demanding a change. Yeah. But when it comes to the political field, it doesn't it's a stop. It's a dead end kind of.
Yeah.
And that's nothing that, I mean, I can't really accept that.
No.
But many people are now starting to realize this crisis, like the climate crisis, but also the ecological crisis.
Yeah.
And we really have to have some politicians that are realizing this. So that's why I myself became a politician.
That's amazing.
And that's where I am today, a member of the Swedish Parliament.
Yeah.
And I think actually the first spokesperson for biodiversity.
Wow,
So
that is so amazing.
Yeah, I'm really happy and humble to have that responsibility. And where I am now, my responsibility is to put the biodiversity on the political agenda always. So I'm nagging,
Oh, so
and
that's
I'm debating, and I'm really persistent in this.
wow. I really have to say that I'm so happy to know that there is someone like you on the inside fighting for the earth in this way and the biodiversity, because this is something I think many people can feel a loss of like belief in politicians and in the governments. So knowing that we have one in Sweden fighting for this is it's really
Thank
really
you. And
happy
it's something that the Green Party has been fighting for a long time. But I was also a little bit frustrated about the environment. When you talked about the environment, it was mostly about climate. And it's really good and important that we talk about climate, of course, but there are also other aspects that I felt like they were being like forgotten. And that's about nature itself. So that's why I really want to highlight these topics.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because normally in media as well, the climate is the one that gets the most space. But we have other things that are equally as urgent and sometimes, maybe even more, or in the long run, that we really need to start to make the changes there as well. Amazing. And I had a question. As a biologist, how would you describe the situation today when it comes to forestry? And for example, like we're talking about Amazonas been cutting down trees, a lot of decluttering, and compared to Sweden and European countries and even Canada, Russia, for example. What can you see in the in that situation today? What is happening?
What is happening is in Sweden and other countries like Finland and Norway, that we are replacing ecosystems with plantations. And we do this in a process that we call sustainable forestry. And when we are blaming the Amazon and Brazil for doing this, it's actually the same thing. We do have different ecosystems. Our ecosystems are not as old as the ones in the rainforest, but the process is the same. And we actually have less of original forests in Sweden than in the Amazon, because this is something that has become normal for us, because we have been fooling ourselves that this is normal and this is good and this is sustainable. And why is because we cut down the trees and then we plant new ones. But that's not really the same thing, because when we do plant these new trees, they will not really become a forest, an ecosystem, because they will only be able to grow for like 60 or 70 years old, and then there is a new cycle. So many of the species that belongs to a real forest ecosystem will not even be able to move into this new forest, because it's gonna be gone before it even gets interesting for like woodpeckers and many species of insects and mosses and so on. So we have been normalizing this process, and when we do have this so-called sustainable forestry, it's really an environmental disaster that is ongoing in Sweden. And that's also one thing that brought me into this fight of biodiversity, because you can see with your own eyes, and many people are being hurt by this. You maybe you have some favorite place in the forest where people come to relax and go with their kids or to pick some mushrooms or berries, and suddenly this forest is
It's totally gone.
Yeah.
Wiped out.
Wiped out. And so many people are emotionally affected about this. And I think that's something that we shouldn't be just accepting.
No, I think this is very serious, because it feels like, as you're saying, it's been normalized in that sense that we have not really seen the change. Like, for example, many people don't even realize that a forest they walk in is a farmed forest. Because we are so used to seeing these plantations of trees, but it's not natural from where it used to be, and that is so sad. We call it a forest, but actually it is lines with trees, and then seeing those places that are like a real proper forest with the old forest that still contains some of the, or a lot of the biodiversity and the flora. Those places are getting cut down, and it's more or less and less of those places left.
Yes, and it's happening in silence also. And the forest industry are really smart in one way, because they are spreading a lot of commercial about how sustainable we are, and I would call this propaganda, because that's what it is. They are fooling us to believe that this is something that we can go on without hesitation, and we shouldn't even consider biodiversity.
Exactly.
And one argument that is heard is that this is you can replace it. It's it's something that you can. It's green, so there will be it's renewable.
Renewable energy,
Renewable, and you can't. I mean, biodiversity and species are not renewable.
No.
It's madness to talk in those terms. I mean, then you have to be honest about it. Maybe one tree can be planted again, but a forest ecosystem that is 1,000 years cannot be replaced with a plantation, monoculture that only exists for 70 years.
Yeah, exactly. This is really, and I think this debate and these things needs to be talked more about. This is
absolutely.
like the real issue that we have, and that people don't. I'm afraid just that people won't even see it until it's too late. Or at least it's gone so far down the line that we're starting to see it very clearly. So, but it's good that we're having this talk, I think, about it, lifting up these things, because it's we need to discuss them. And of course, not everyone that works within the forestry industry would agree with us, but looking at it very from a ground level, this is facts. This is like there. You can't say no to it in the end, because it is life that we taking away. And what effect does it have on the biodiversity when harvesting trees in the way we see today, more like specifically? And can we see any effects on water and wetlands and stuff like that? Because what we're using mostly today, I guess, is a certain types of trees. When we're planting in these plantations, it's usually fast-growing fir and pine and these kind of trees. What is the effect on the small?
There is so many effects on the biodiversity in so many different senses. So we know that plants are cooperating with mushrooms in a complex way. So when we are clear cutting, which is kind of weird that we still do this instead of selecting logging, but so when a forest is wiped out, then the soil gets really really dry, and the partners to the mushrooms are gone. So the mushroom also starts to die off. And this has been a cooperation that has taken a lot of years, maybe hundreds of years to sometimes to establish. And now their partner is gone, and the soil is hot and burned. So this has a huge effect, of course, on the soil. And then there are minerals and particles in the ground that is just washed away in the rain, that makes the water more brownish, and that also affects the water quality. And I mean, if you are a fish that is hunting through the sites, and you have to see your prey in order to take it, when the water becomes brown, it's really hard to catch anything. So I mean, there are many steps in this. So there's actually a missing link, I would say, through like the forestry has a big effect on the water quality. And the water quality is something that we actually take more serious, but we don't really highlight this link that is there. And I think that the forest industry is quite afraid of this, and that's why we also should talk about this much more.
Definitely, because I don't know. I mean, you know more about this than I, but I could see living in middle of Sweden around Uppsala. They made a huge cut down on trees. It was the forestry there was very big a few years ago, and I don't know if it was just a coincidence, but the lack of water came as well the year after. And I'm thinking like these things might, like also in the end, like in the longer end, affect us direct as well. And I don't know if you think that as well, but that was my own
and that I don't know for sure. I don't know any studies like right now, but I don't think it's been studied so much in Sweden, like this link. Yes, because we don't want to really know it. The answers are quite scary, I think. I think also mercury is being. I mean, when we do this thing with the ground that we before planting, we kind of have these big machines going through the soil, and that is also releasing mercury out, which is collected with the streams and then into the lakes, and that also affects when pregnant women are not really recommended to eat some different species of fish because of these high levels of mercury. And this is nothing that we are talking about.
No.
But that's something that could actually affect us as individuals. And why should women who are pregnant have to take responsibility for this for this industry that is not even talking about, it's not even admitting that this is a problem?
Exactly, and then also promoting it like a sustainable way of acting, that it will be something for the climate, for helping the climate change. And this is, and as you were mentioning before as well, with the commercials and the propaganda that is used when, for you who are not from Sweden who are listening, there has been loads of campaigns about the Swedish forest and how good it is for the climate.
Huge campaigns.
And using it for other things than not only paper and building houses, but for clothing and for
makeup and for everything. Everything we can just take from the forest. And
gas and all of that. Wow. And I just wanted to touch as well, because what we see in Sweden today with all these huge lands of planted trees, there has occurred types of bugs as well. I don't know. Do you think they are linked as well to? Can you see a relationship there as well? While these bugs is attacking some of the trees, is this something that is?
These beetles are. I mean, in a natural forest, they are quite common. It's a part of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
But since we don't have many like functional ecosystems, they can actually become like really big in numbers. And what they do is that they are laying their eggs in the bark in the pine. Spruce.
Spruce, yeah.
But they can only do this if the spruce is going to die soon.
Okay.
So if the spruce is being stressed from like really hot temperatures or no water or something else, then after a year it will be really like sick, and then this beetle can come to put their eggs there. But so what we are seeing now is a big hatred against these beetles because they are blamed to destroy all of the forest, but it's only effect, like it's a symptom of something that is already wrong and sick. I would say that it's a symptom of the climate crisis. It's a symptom of our way to manage this forest because it's not sustainable. If we have a big forest, which is a plantation, and these trees are clones, and they are in the exact same age, and they are managed in the exact same way, and then we have a really dry summer, and next year we have these beetles just taking what they can. It's really not
hard to see the link.
It's and what we're doing is to try to blame the beetles for everything. We are trying to eliminate them, but it's only a symptom of something that is wrong and not sustainable from the beginning. So if we really want to get rid of these problems, we should have more varied forests from the beginning. And we shouldn't really work against nature and forcing it to be a monoculture. We should work with nature and allowing it to be wild and have all of these different species, because in the natural forest ecosystem we also have other species preying on these beetles. So it never really becomes this big of a problem if we don't have these monocultures and this really unsustainable way of managing forests.
I guess it's a way of also talking about the Earth's immune system. For example. It is.
In a way, it's
working almost.
It's in a way it reminds me of the coronaviruses that we have, the coronavirus that we have now experienced. I mean, it's not really like a vaccine. That is the problem solver here. It's just something that that we can use now when we are in this crisis. But if we continue this way and we think that now we have this vaccine so we can just continue without hesitating, we will have new pandemics like this. Because the problem here really is that we are managing nature in an unsustainable way, and we are putting animals in cages really close to each other, which would never be close to each other in a natural ecosystem. So then viruses can they can jump and they can develop and they can surprise us again with this pandemic. So this is not natural. It has never happened before that species are like forced together on a small space, and that's what we're doing when we're taking their home away with like deforestation and these markets, wet markets, and trade with wild animals and so on.
And there are so many links in between, and,
Yeah.
and it all comes down to us trying to control the earth and its
Yeah.
resources instead of
Yes.
seeing it as us a part of the
exactly.
ecosystem and a part of nature.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we're coming to the point where I would like to talk a bit about something that is actually currently happening right now.
Yes.
And we are in a place in Sweden called Lysekil, which is on the agenda very much today, because we have the Preem RAF, who is wanting to build out their services or their production. And so I would like us to dig a bit about this, because actually we're here today to demonstrate against this.
Yeah, we were on a sail out before, and Greenpeace had a rainbow warrior there, and it was really nice.
Yeah, really cool, and it was quite stormy as well. So you did well on the boat
to survive. Yeah.
So could you explain a bit about what is this discussion and what is happening? What do they want, and what do the people that are like Greenpeace, for example? What do we say against this?
Yeah. So Preem is actually like a big oil industry, and that is something to remember, because here in Sweden they had this huge greenwashing campaign where they draw this picture like that they are better than all other alternatives, and if they can't build here, they will build somewhere else, and that this is actually sustainable because they want to have more biofuels in the future. But actually we have to remember this is a oil industry, and what they want to do is to increase the emissions in Sweden with 1 million tons of carbon dioxide each year.
Wow.
And that will ruin every kind of political step forward in tackling the climate crisis. So this will ruin everything, and what they say about this biofuels is that in the future we want to invest more in this, and that is also that could sound really good, but if we really take this crisis seriously, we can't buy this argument that this would happen somewhere else.
No.
It's not in my backyard. It's not in anybody's backyard. This is something we can't invest in.
Yeah.
Because then we are like investing in a dead planet. That's
exactly.
We have to see it for what it is.
Moving forward instead of clinching to the old and the things that we already know is dying.
Yeah, the fossil.
Yeah, exactly.
The fossils. No,
Yeah.
so it's quite madness.
Yeah.
And again, what they're saying is that with the biofuels that they would have in the future, and that sounds really green and fantastic, but we can't really support this with all like forest in Sweden wouldn't really be enough for them.
Yeah.
So that is just an argument that is really empty, and even with even if you believe in biofuels from the forest, it doesn't really solve a problem. What is our biggest problem is emissions, and if we are burning up fuels from the forest, it's the same thing as burning up from the oil, because they both emit carbon dioxide, and the atmosphere doesn't really care where is the origin. No,
exactly. Yeah, and in the end, if you're taking away the source, the lungs that will actually clean the carbon from the air and use that as fuel for releasing carbon, that doesn't make sense at all.
No.
It's, that cycle is very short. It will rebound quite quickly.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's so much about also like the time perspective, because a forest, if we burn today we can burn up like the fossil, biofuels for 1 year, but it will take maybe 100 years before that is now collected in the forest again. And also we shouldn't forget the biodiversity, which have a so big problem in Sweden, because almost 2,000 species in Sweden are on the red list and linked to the forest.
2,000.
Yeah, and it's so big number, and we can't really take it in. I think it's a so huge number, and it's a sign of failure.
Yeah, especially when Sweden also has been, I think, abroad and out in the world. I think people usually look at Sweden as a sustainable country and a country that goes green and for the future. And then doing this thing towards our species and towards the nature we have around is very serious, and it's like it doesn't really look good at all.
No.
So and also with what you're saying back with Prim as well, that this is a way of not really looking good towards other countries as well. I mean, the Paris agreement as well, and Sweden not taking a very big step towards going in that direction, but rather backwards. So
so I hope really this won't go through.
Yeah.
And it's and people are protesting.
Yeah.
That's really important.
And that is the good thing as well, that people are starting to wake up about these things, and the more we demolishing the nature, the more it comes clear as well for people. I think that this is not a way to go for the future.
Exactly.
And so now I was thinking we've gone down the rabbit hole a bit about the downsides of what is actually happening in Sweden and in the world when it comes to forestry, but I would also like to put in some hints about the positive things that we actually can help out with, because I think that many people today as well, when we get so much information about the climate crisis and things around that it almost feels like it's too much of a thing to handle for us privately. So I would like to go and give 3 examples of what you can do for yourself to work your way to a more sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah, okay.
So number 1.
Number 1, for me at least, is to be vegan. Because it's for many different reasons. It's when I studied, I realized how big environmental effect it had to me to eat as much meat that we do in Sweden. Like normally we eat it, and we don't reflect so much if this is something that we are grown up with and we eat it in school and so on. But it actually takes really small land to produce vegetables and compared to meat, because if we have to eat meat, then we have to feed the animals, and they have to have a lot of crops or land area that is just used in order to give them food. So that's a big waste of energy, land use, water, and so on. So to decrease this impact, I think becoming a vegan has the biggest impact. And also from an ethical point of view, I don't think it's unnatural for one animal to eat another animal, and we are also animals, as you mentioned, but we have a choice. And if my life doesn't depend on it, and my happiness doesn't really depend on it, and life quality doesn't depend on it, then for me, it's not a big sacrifice to become a vegan.
No.
I should say it's the opposite. I feel more comfortable, and I feel better, and I eat more variated than before. So becoming a vegan. And number 2 is to think about what you are consuming and try to not try to really think things through. Is this something that we have to buy or not? And my clothes are like second hand. And if I have friends with the same size of clothes, we can do swaps and we can borrow and so on. And then just to make that more normal, also to have to switch and make that more normal. I think that could have a big impact as well. And then I think number 3 is something that could be contradictory to the to the first 2, but that is to just realize that this crisis is not something that we could put on an individual level. And with that, yes, of course we have to do everything we can in our power, but the power belongs to them with the biggest the responsibility belongs to them with the biggest power. So what we have today is a system that doesn't work. We have a system, and an economic system, that is built on exploiting both humans and nature and the environment. So it's really hard to tackle this as an individual. And we should remember that and try to make steps in this movement in the right direction. We should try to always bring back the responsibility to them who has the most power. It could be CEOs, big corporations, politicians. Everyone that has big power has to take responsibility. And in this movement, and all these kind of small steps should come from within yourself. And if you are a good singer, maybe you can raise your voice in order to raise awareness. Maybe you are a good writer. Maybe you can use your words in order to raise awareness. And maybe you can do crowdfunding. Maybe you can tell other people and inspire them. Maybe you can have lectures to spread knowledge. To go back to where something that you are that you like to do, and to use that tool that is quite unique for you, and to use this with both joy and with love, but in order to take small steps or big steps, as big steps as we can, to change. Because I think that we can all contribute somehow, wherever we are, even if you are in the middle of a career, or if you are retired, or it doesn't matter.
We can always work our steps towards that, and and start doing it for ourselves as well, because in the end what we give into ourselves will also be what is surrounding us, and especially if we having that in focus of what we're giving to ourselves would serve the earth and people and animals around us in a good way. And the change can come much quicker than we think.
I'm a believer of karma. And that's, I think many people are longing to give something back to nature and to others. It's something that makes us happy and proud in doing so.
Really good tips, thank you. So, and we actually come to the last question for today. And I just wanted to get a bit inspired. What if there was no money in the world? If we took away all the money and the way of using the earth for money, how? And this is not a faculty like anything to do with science, but just your view on it. What would your dream look like, and how would you think it could look like for people to live in a future where more closer to nature?
Yeah, it's a hard question, and it takes a lot of imagination. I think that we will always kind of trade with each other, but now this economic system that we're kind of stuck in is really like short-term focused, and it gives us like opportunity to grow, but on behalf of others, like on the exploiting people and nature. So, but I mean, if we use our imagination, we can think about ourselves living on this planet and realizing that this is a paradise in the universe. I mean, it gives life, and that's amazing.
It's amazing.
And we often hear that money doesn't grow on trees, but that's not true. I mean, fruit grows on trees, and that's something that we eat, and we can buy it in the store. So this paradise that we are living on right now, if we could just realize how magic it is, and maybe value it somehow. And so what if we can imagine that we are being just fed here, all of the other species, we are all doing something here together, which is quite like magic. We could see it if I try to turn perspective, that we are a part of this ecosystem, and that everything that is living, living being has right of its own to live, and we all play a part of this ecosystem. And we think about beehives, for example. What if the bees were employing us to do the admin? Because bees can't really trade, and they can't put their honey in jars or so. But they will only pay us as little as possible, because they want to keep their the money. But what should bee do with money from their trade? So maybe they could just give it away for free. So we will, like the people who are living in the local village or wherever, they will just get some free money from these beehives. Because it is it's not used for the admin to sell the jars or so on. And what if the forest could employ us to just do some really selective logging, but respecting the forest? So then the money that is not being used to the admin could be used to as free money, so that everybody could at least have money on their food and shelter, so that everybody could be having a good life quality. I mean, what if we just turn this perspective, that work is not the most the efficient work is not the thing that we should focus on, but rather life quality and living in respect and harmony with nature. And the thing is that we could do this.
The distance in between is so short. Like it would be very easy in a way to switch over. So it's a madness. We could live in this paradise of flourishing, but we choose to or we have chosen before at least to go down a different path.
And I think it's because of control, and also a little bit of greed, of course. But if we do have to control everything, monoculture is a good way in doing that. Wildness will become a threat to our control. But if we could just skip this control, I think that nature can easily grow back, because life wants to live, life wants to flourish, and the magic will come back if we just let it. And we can have good life qualities. But we have to switch focus from an increasing BNP and like a fixation about work hours into something more important. And that just, as you say, we could, but it's I mean, the line is there, but in the same way, it's a big change.
Yeah.
It's a really huge change of mindset that we have to see things completely different.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is a perfect way of summing up this interview and this podcast episode, with keeping in mind that we can take this with us, this manifestation, this picture of us in the future, hopefully working more together with the nature.
Yeah.
And maybe having the forest employing us instead of harvesting it down.
And admitting that nature has rights of itself.
Definitely. And this is also happening now as we speak.
Yes.
More and more places are getting the rights. And if you're interested to know more about that with nature's rights, you can go on to our website gaeamusic.com, and we will put up some information about the ongoing projects, about different places that are going through this. So thank you so much, Rebecka, for being on the show. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you all for listening, and I see you next time.